Today I'm going to show you one of my most recent makeovers. This is a vintage buffet that I picked up from Facebook Marketplace. My son came with me to get it out of the house and get it home and unloaded from my truck. Here it is, you guys. We're such a good pair when it comes to moving furniture. My son is 17 now, but he's been helping me since he was about 12 or 13 years old. Such a good helper. Here it is, you guys, and from a distance, it looks like it's, in really good shape. But as you come closer, you can see that it clearly has damage and needs a lot of work. Especially the top, but let's look at the rest of it. It's not in perfect condition, but that's okay. I love the character and charm of these old vintage pieces, and I'm never wanting to make them look brand new. I like to keep the dings and dents because that's all part of its character and charm. So just so you know that I'm not planning on making this look perfect. I just want to give it a new look. I will probably start by seeing what is underneath that top and see if it's able to be saved. If it is, great. If not, that's okay. It can be painted, and I love paint. So now that it's inside my house, I can get a better look at it. The hardware was all intact, and I do plan on reusing this hardware. I think it's very sweet, and I think it goes well with the piece. You can see here along the bottom, I already did a quick repair before I started recording. There was some veneer damage along the bottom of this door, and I used Quickwood. It's a 2-part epoxy that you knead together and then put over the damage, let it set and cure, and then you're going to sand it smooth. I love these legs. They all look a little rough, but later in the video, I will show you how I jazz them up without having to sand them. This top, you guys, it's killing me. I just have a feeling that it won't be able to be saved, but like I said, we'll see. Such a cute piece. Let's start by removing that backsplash. I don't know if I will keep this or not, but in order to sand the top, I do want to get that removed. This particular backsplash sat flush on the top of the buffet, so there wouldn't be a gap if I decide not to use it. All right, let's address this top. This is one of the first things I noticed on closer inspection, that there was a lot of veneer bubbling on the top. And this is pretty much telling me that's a no-go for being able to sand and refinish the top, because this large chunk will need to be filled. When you are removing veneer like this, you want to make sure that you really check for any loose areas. Don't stop at just what you can peel off, because I promise you it'll peel up later. I'm just using a flathead screwdriver. I should be using a different tool, but you can see if you just kind of jam at the edges, you'll kind of feel where the loose parts are. And this is what we're working with, you guys. It's not just one layer of veneer, it's 2. This is a pretty deep gouge after all of that checking to see where it was loose. So, how are we going to fix this? I promise you we can. I know that it looks rough now, but just trust me and trust the process. Because this is so deep and pretty big, I am going to use Bondo. This is a very, very strong filler, typically used in automotives. And it's a 2-part system, so I'm just emptying out some of the Bondo here on my cardboard, and then I have to add the cream hardener. Now, you do have to work with this pretty quickly. And there's no specific measurements really. I'm just doing like a crisscross of the hardener onto my putty and then giving it a good mix. You want to mix it well so that you get an even color throughout. And like I said, you do have to move quickly when using this product because it does set up and start to get hard quickly. I felt like I needed a little more hardener, so that's what I did. I'm mixing that all in right here. Unfortunately, I did not get a video of me applying this. I forgot to hit record, but here's what it looks like after it's applied, smoothed out, and dry. Now you do have to let this dry. I typically wait at least an hour, although it sets up much faster than that. And then you're gonna have to come in and sand it smooth. I am using 120 grit sandpaper here because like I mentioned before, Bondo is very hard and you will need to give it a little bit of elbow grease to get it all nice and smooth. I'm using my Festool sanding system, which I love so much. It has a dust extractor, so it allows me to sand in my house without getting dust everywhere. It's one of the best investments I've ever made for my business, especially living in a cold weather state where I can't work outside or in my garage when it gets too cold. So you can see it starting to smooth out, and then you can see the outline of the exact area of where I filled. Do you see that? It really is an amazing product and I use it a lot. After I get the Bondo down with the 120 grit, I typically do another round of sanding with 220 grit just to make it nice and smooth. And here's what it looks like. So you can see that whole area has filled in very nicely, and I'm just feeling it to make sure it is nice and smooth. But I never really stop at just one wood filler. I like to go over top of the Bondo with just a regular wood filler. I'll show it to you guys right here. And I just do another coat just to make sure that there's no areas that are going to show through once this piece is painted. And once that wood filler is set up and dry, then you sand again to make it nice and smooth. I am using 220 grit right here. This will just ensure that in case there were any areas that the Bondo kind of missed, that it won't show through once it's painted. Sometimes you can get little bubbles in the Bondo and you never want that. After that's done, I started removing the old hardware and setting that aside. Like I said, I do plan on cleaning that up and reusing it. Whenever I can use the old hardware, I do. And now it's time for more sanding, you guys. I just want to give the entire piece a good scuff sanding. I did start with the top though. I'm using 220 grit. I've already done that bondoed area, but now I need to make sure the rest of the top is sanded down and nice and smooth and ready for paint. There is another step here that I forgot to record, and that is using a stain blocking primer over the bondoed area. And that is just to make sure that you will not see that area or have any trace of it coming through your paint. And dang it, I wish I would have shared that, but recorded that, but that'll have to be for another video. Sanding, and more sanding, making sure this piece is as smooth as can be and will take the paint nicely. It will adhere well and it will have that nice smooth finish. Let me show you what the top looks like now after all of that sanding. Here's that bondoed area. And you guys can clearly see that this is not a candidate for refinishing. There's just too much damage that I am not really interested in investing the time or energy to try to save. Like I said earlier, I love refinished wood, but I also love paint. So either way, it's a win for me. And now it's time to scuff sand the rest of the piece. I am using 220 grit, and I'm starting with the sides of the buffet. I will do a hand sanding on the doors and the drawers just because there are more detailed areas to get to, and it's not as easy to do that with my my Festool orbital sander. And here I am going along the top again, making sure I have that nice and smooth. So I just take that used disc right off of my sander to scuff sand the rest of the piece by hand. And like I said, I'm mainly doing this because there are a lot of detailed areas that are just too hard to get to with my orbital sander. So it does take a little bit more time, but I don't want to ruin any of the detail by having that sander nick off some parts of it. I'm making sure to get the back legs as well. They will be painted. I am leaving the front detailed legs wood, but I will paint the back and you'll see how it comes together later. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but scuff sanding is so important because it's going to aid in the adherence of your paint. You're basically just getting a surface layer of that finish off of your piece so it's not super slick or too smooth to accept the paint. Then I'm taking my little vacuum cleaner and cleaning up some of the dust that way. I will go ahead and give the piece a good cleaning as well, but I like to use my little vacuum just to get the excess dust. Now for a good cleaning, I am using my favorite. This is called Anvil by Melange. It is a cleaner and degreaser in one. It is a non-foaming formula, so that means you don't have to come back in and rinse off any soapy residue with clean, clear water. I really love this product. You can literally feel how much cleaner your piece feels after you use it. It is amazing. I'm making sure to get all the detailed areas, including the legs, and I usually clean my piece 2 to 3 times. I like doing several rounds because you do want to start with a clean piece. That's just going to help with the finished product. Once the cleaning is done, it is time for paint. I am using the one and only Talley Green by Melange. The reason why this color is so special to me, you guys, is that it's named for me. How cool is that, right? And here is the Rachel brush. This is my go-to by Melange. But let's get back to the name of this color. So I started working with Melange. They knew that my favorite color was olive green, and they didn't have one in their palette. So they secretly created this color inspired by me and named it after me. And I could not love it more. It is such a beautiful color, and I just love the story behind that. So here I am painting the top. You guys remember, no primer needed other than that stain blocking primer that I did use on the Bondo spot. Melange Paints has the primer and top coat built in. That's one of the reasons why I love it, is because it's so easy to use. I always start by painting the top of my piece, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, I always like to use very light, thin coats using a light hand, meaning you're not globbing on the paint or pressing it in super hard. You are going to do multiple coats. On this piece, I did 3. So if you see that the paint looks uneven or you see any brush strokes, don't worry about it. I promise you it will fill in and level out with additional coats. One of the other things I absolutely love about this paint is that it is self-leveling. That means as it dries and cures, it will level out and you will not see any brush strokes. I exclusively brush all of my pieces. I've just never really been interested in spraying, nor do I have a space to do that. But this paint can also be sprayed. I know several others that do, and they love it, but I can only attest to brushing it. And you guys, it is so easy and it's just so beautiful. It has such a gorgeous finish. But I think what I love most is the fact that the primer and top coat are built in. So it's kind of like a one-step paint. I mean, obviously I need to prep my piece, but for most pieces, I just have to paint. No primer, no top coat. I will use a primer, like I said previously, if I'm worried about blocking a stain, or if it's a super slick surface, I might use a bonding primer. But in this case, I just had to do the stain blocking primer on that one spot, and then the rest of the piece just needed the paint. I forgot to tape off the legs earlier, you guys, but I caught myself and got them taped off. While that first coat of paint is drying, let's work on the hardware. Here it is. It's very pretty, very sweet hardware. It definitely goes well with the style of the piece, so I want to clean it up and reuse it. I am using my good old hardware soup recipe. I have a whole nother video showing this in great detail. But basically you boil your hardware in a mix of vinegar and water for 15 to 20 minutes. Then I add some Barkeeper's Friend, take an old toothbrush and give it all a good scrub. After I've scrubbed with the toothbrush, I bring out the main ingredient, and that is the steel wool. You want to use the finest grit. See the 4 zeros, and then I get it a little bit damp and then just start scrubbing away. And that is really going to remove that dirt and grime and shine up your piece. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the hardware in its original state or if I'm going to paint it, but either way, you do need to clean your hardware first in order for the paint to adhere to the hardware if that is the route you decide to go. It can get a little tedious and definitely takes some elbow grease or finger grease. But look at how these turned out, you guys. They're so pretty. That dirt and grime is gone and they're looking all pretty and new. I did end up spraying these, you guys, only because I didn't like the way the gold patina looked against the Talley Green color. Anyway, let's move on to the legs. The last thing I want to do is hand sand these legs and restain them. So I have a little trick that I use, and you guys have to remember, I am all about perfectly imperfect. So this is perfect for me. I am using a product called Restore Finish, and this is not going to completely remove all of the scratches and dings, but it is going to fill them in and kind of even it out and bring some luster and shine back to the wood. And you can see here that leg that's closest to the camera, that one already has Restore Finish on it, and look at how nice it looks. I'm applying this with the finest grade steel wool. I just pour a little bit out onto my steel wool and work it into the wood. And I am wearing gloves because I don't want this to get on my hands. It can be a little bit messy. There are several different stain color options when purchasing Restore Finish. I am using dark walnut. It doesn't have to be the exact color of your wood finish, but just find something that's pretty close to it. It's so easy to apply, you guys, and it's just so much fun to see that wood kind of coming back to life. And it's just a really good kind of like simple fix for wood that you don't really want to sand or strip and completely refinish, but you just want to kind of bring it back to life and cover up some of those scratches and dings. I usually let this kind of sit and soak in for about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then I will come back with a microfiber cloth and just wipe back the excess. So that is what I'm doing here. Again, a microfiber cloth, you're just going back over all of the areas that you just applied the Restore Finish with, and then let it soak in, wipe back the excess. It's as easy as that. Look at how good they look, you guys. Again, not perfect by any means, but I am never going for perfect with my pieces, and I feel like this is just such a great option. Now, after that is completely dry, I'd say, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes up to, a couple hours really, I will use another Howard's product, and this is their Feed and Wax. And again, I just pour some out onto my microfiber cloth and work that into the wood. And that is going to provide some more hydration and just keep that newly restored wood looking good for even longer. And now it's time to look at the piece put back together. Isn't it beautiful, you guys? I could not love this color more. Again, this is Talley Green by Melange. It is a beautiful earthy olive. It's really perfect for that pop of green in your home. Look at how nice and smooth that paint is laying. You can't even tell where that repair was on the top. The hardware looks so good. I did end up painting that because I didn't love the way the gold looked against this color. So I used my favorite spray, which is called Rustic Mist by Rust-Oleum. And it's just so beautiful, you guys. I have a buffet in my home in this exact same color, kind of the same style, and it's probably my favorite piece in my home. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys like this one. I know I didn't capture every single step, but hey, I'm just getting started. I hope you guys are liking what I'm doing so far, and stay tuned for more. Here's some still shots of this gorgeous piece, Talley Green by Melange. I will put the link in the description, and as always, you can use my code JEN10 for 10% off your orders. Thank you for being here.